What's up, everybody? It's Zero Call from PunchDrunkSports.com, bringing you a new show called The Post-Fight Fallout, where I'll be talking about the repercussions of the biggest fights over whatever weekend in MMA. And obviously, in this case, it's going to be about Nate Diaz versus Conor McGregor. A huge fight. And first of all, I just want to say congratulations to Nate Diaz on getting such a big win, finally getting what he deserved from a financial point of view, and finally sort of being recognized as one of the best fighters in the UFC. You know, the guy has been at the very top of the lightweight division for so many years now, and it's nice to see him finally getting his name out there as really one of the best fighters in the UFC. Also, I want to say, much respect to both guys, in particular to Conor McGregor, who took a very big risk fighting at 170 against obviously one of the toughest guys in the UFC. And taking a big risk of sort of looking like an idiot, which has ended up what ended up happening. It takes a lot of balls to really take on anybody on any given time, which is what he's done countless times. You've had Aldo pull out on him, you've had Dos Anjos pull out on him, you've had Cole Miller pull out on him. A few years ago, I think it was about a couple of years ago, a year at this point, and it can't be easy having an opponent change on you that often and have such a big change. You're going from Dos Anjos, that was most likely just going to try to grapple with him, who's a shorter opponent with less reach than you, and then you end up having to fight a guy who's 6'1", and has a 2-inch reach advantage on you, and also you're fighting 2 weight classes heavier. Although Nate Diaz is a lightweight, so it's not exactly like he's fighting Robbie Lawler or somebody at the top echelon of the welterweight division. It's still a tough task, and a lot of respect for Conor for taking the fight, and also a lot of respect for Nate Diaz for also stepping up and taking a fight like that. So let's just go ahead and go into where this fight sort of leaves us. I'm not going to go into analysis of the fight itself. Obviously, there's two things that we know about the Diaz brothers. Both of them are extremely tough. So if you don't put them away, then they're going to keep coming at you. If you don't somehow knock them out, they're not going to stop. They're going to keep moving forward, keep pressuring you. And two, the Diaz brothers, if they do have you hurt and there's more than, say, 30 seconds to a minute, then you're almost fucked. I mean, the amount of pressure that they put on you, especially when they see blood, when they see that somebody's in danger, and when they see that there's a finish coming, they put on a pressure that's hellacious. There's just no way that you're going to get rid of them. You're not going to get away from them. What are you going to do? Try to take them down and go to the ground? When you're dazed, that's a terrible idea, considering how slick their jiu-jitsu is. In particular, I think Nate Diaz, his jiu-jitsu is more impressive in my opinion. He's gotten a lot more submissions, and I think that overall, Nate Diaz is, in my opinion anyway, the more technical of the two fighters, of the two brothers. Now, that's exactly what happened. Conor was hurt on the feet. He was exhausted. He went for a takedown. Obviously, his brown belt, I think he's a brown belt. His jiu-jitsu is nowhere near as good as a legit black belt like Nate Diaz, who cut through him like butter, as Joe Rogan said, and got the submission quick. Now, basically, what this does is this leaves Conor McGregor, who is obviously still the featherweight champion, and I think this sort of shows him that maybe moving up to welterweight and lightweight isn't going to be quite as easy as he thought. Maybe he's not as good as he thought. He was obviously, based on the way he was talking to himself as he was the 1 through 9 in the pound for pound ranking, calling himself a god. Obviously joking at that point, but still, maybe he was getting a bit too big for his britches. And I think this fight, in a way, is a blessing in disguise in that sense that he now knows that he's not invincible. There are definitely multiple ways that a guy can beat him. His chin isn't untouchable. One shot from Nate Diaz essentially rocked him. So he's gonna have to look himself in the mirror, and also obviously the jiu-jitsu is a big problem he has to work on. So there are certain factors that he has to look in the mirror at, and I'm sure that a guy like Conor McGregor, who's very focused on improving himself and always. He's based on how he analyzes fights and how he analyzes the game itself. You can tell that he's one of those guys that's going to learn from his loss, and he's going to come back way better than ever. Now, the lightweight division, on the other hand, obviously, since Conor did lose, I don't think that there's even a chance of him going for the lightweight belt, considering he just lost to a lightweight. Even though it was a welterweight, he still lost to a lightweight. And what I think would be really, really good, both from the UFC and from a fan's point of view, is seeing Nate Diaz fight for the lightweight belt. I mean, let's see, you have a hilarious guy who's very entertaining, and he shows up the fight. There's no risk of him pulling out. He's obviously, the numbers are going to be there, especially since he just beat the face of the UFC. So, I mean, I think that from that point of view, the UFC definitely should make the fight happen. And I think it's also, because it's a rematch, Nate Diaz would probably be extra motivated to go ahead and get in there and try to beat those Anjos, take his belt. And obviously, since now he's going to be making a lot of money, he's got that extra motivation. I don't think we'll see Nate Diaz demotivated like we used to. And I think that's going to be a big difference, because when you look at him, what you see his fight against Michael Johnson, you see what he did against Conor McGregor on short notice. When the guy shows up and he's motivated, he's dangerous as hell. And he's definitely one of the best fighters in the UFC, especially in the lightweight division. I would love to see him fight for the belt. I think that's what should happen. I think it would sell hugely. I think, those Anjos would probably see it as as somebody he's already beaten, so somebody he could probably take out. So I'm sure he won't pull out this time. Obviously, he did break a foot, but, just to talk shit, I guess. And then at featherweight, I personally would like to see Conor fight Edgar, in the next fight, because I think although he was offered the fight after he was offered the Conor fight on short notice, after he kept on saying that he would take Conor on any time, any place, and what does he do? As soon as they offer him the fight, he says no. So it's like, how the hell are you going to call somebody a pussy when they offered you the fight, you turned it down, and the guy already knocked you out in 13 seconds? So how the hell are you going to call him a pussy? And before that, you pulled out. I think Jose should probably keep his mouth shut, because he's already been made to look a bit like a moron quite a few times, and he can't have been coming out of that fight against Conor without being humiliated. So I would say he should probably just keep his mouth shut, because he's just making himself look stupid, in my opinion. I understand talking shit and trying to get the fight, but when the guy's already beating your ass, you should probably just stop. Now, Edgar, on the other hand, I think is the best choice, because I think he's the guy that has the best chance of beating Conor. Obviously, he has amazing wrestling. He's a very strong pressure fighter. He has a granite chin, and his jiu-jitsu is very slick. So I think that's a recipe for a very tough fight for Conor. I think that's what we should see, considering he is on a big win streak. He did just knock out Chad Mendez, which is obviously definitely not easy, considering Chad is right there with Jose Aldo for the next spot as in who's the best in the division. And I would definitely love to see Edgar go ahead and get that shot. He's been waiting for a long time, and I think he's the number one choice, and I think he's the one that deserves it the most. So I think overall, the lightweight and featherweight division, the divisions are very open right now. I think there's a lot of possibilities in both divisions, and this is probably the most entertaining that the divisions have been in a long time. And just since Conor's obviously, he's very polarizing. Nate Diaz is also very polarizing. And I think the simple fact that both of those guys are going to be on a collision course to fight each other one more time, and with the build-up that there's going to be, with both guys possibly being champions, going at it with another super fight, I think that it'll be an amazing fight, and I think the build-up will be hilarious. And I really hope that we get to see the rematch again, because I love both dudes. I've been a Conor fan for a long time. I've been a Nate Diaz fan in general, a Diaz brothers fan for a long time. So it'll be really, really fun to see them go at each other again. And I do think Conor will be back ever stronger than ever. And I do think that a lot of the hate that's been sending towards his way. Obviously, he did sort of attracted to himself by talking all the shit that he talks and being so confident, being so arrogant. I think obviously he expected it. I'm assuming. He knew that if he ever did lose, it was going to happen. And I think that's another reason this is probably a blessing in disguise, in the sense that he'll now know it doesn't get any more embarrassing than this. Tapping after, to a guy you call the Cholo gangster, just, you talk shit about. So I think that he's going to be, I don't know. I think that in general, this fight, even though he didn't lose his belt. He didn't lose too much stock, I would say. Sure, he's not going to be that invincible looking figure anymore, but which in my opinion he never did look like that, but I think that overall the UFC is in a very good place out of this because Nate Diaz, a star, is going to be brighter than ever. Conor, obviously, he's not going anywhere, and both divisions are now very, very interesting. So that's about it for the show. Hope you liked it. If you did, hit the like button. Please subscribe. If there's anything you think that you didn't agree with, please let me know in the comments, and we can talk about it. See, I would love to see other people's opinions. And check out punchdrunksports.com. Listen to the podcast, and see you next time.